It is Tuesday. I meant to start this yesterday, but I was at a hen party over the weekend, which is what we call a bachelorette party here, and I was just recovering because I was very tired. Welcome to another weekly vlog. I have several things I need to read this week, or want to read this week. I have We Do Not Part, which is the new Han Kang, which I did get as an arc on NetGalley, but has now also actually come out, so I'm not reading it super far in advance. The Boy from the Sea, which is another NetGalley arc by Garrett, Carr, and this is set in Donegal and is set in 1973, so a bit of Irish historical fiction there. And also I have another ebook to read is Fighting for Control, Power, Reproductive Care and Race in the US-Mexico Borderlands by Lina Maria Murillo. About Mexican origin women living in the border cities of El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. So that's going to be an interesting read, slightly different, something a bit different from the other two, which are both fiction. But I'm reading that for Sunny from the Sunny Book Nooks Lesbian Feminist Book Club. I have not been feeling very well. I've had a really bad back pain for the past month, and it's not been a fun experience. So I went out for a walk earlier hoping that some sort of gentle movement might improve the pain, but actually it just made me feel sick, nauseous sick. So I am not sure how much of that is going to be part of this vlog. Hopefully not too much. Hopefully I will start to feel better soon, but you never know. What I am doing is, it is my boyfriend's birthday this week, so we are going down to Dorset to have a nice time by the sea, but it is forecast to be highs of 4 degrees, so and hopefully not raining, so we will hopefully be able to go for some nice walks, and I will be able to take you with me. We are down in saunage now. My hair's a bit of a mess, but we are about to go to a beach sauna, so there's no point doing anything with it. I didn't bring my camera, so this is going to be a phone vlog, which is probably a good thing, because I just went to edit, before we left I went to edit a vlog that I filmed at the end of January, and I'd filmed all of the talking clips in slow motion. So there is no vlog, because slow motion doesn't capture sound, so it's just me moving very slowly and you can't hear what I'm saying. I started The Boy from the Sea, and I'm not sure how I feel about the writing so far. It's alright. It's got a kind of humour to it, and it's told from a collective we voice, which is interesting. It's about this boy who was abandoned as a baby and he's been taken in by this family, and it's kind of about small town Donegal, and I guess the changing nature of the market there, because they're fishermen and the EU and stuff has come in and it's changed the fishing because it's set in the 70s. So I think it's going to be a fairly quick read. It's fairly easy to get through the first 20% or so. I'll see how much time I actually have to read this weekend though, because obviously we're seeing people. It's pretty cold and windy. The sea's rougher than it normally does, so dipping into it's going to be interesting. Maybe we'll just stick to the sauna. It's cold, it's 4 degrees, it's cold. don't love coming on here with wet hair and in my pyjamas, but I am so tired. I cycled into work today for the first time since November, I think. And like, it's only 16 kilometers, but my legs hurt. I'm tired. I left my bike at work, so now I'm gonna have to do the 16 kilometers again tomorrow on the way home. I came back on Sunday and it's now Thursday. I've barely talked to you. Oh, my cat is right next to me. She's been being very needy since we got back from a weekend away. So I haven't read very much. I started reading Taking Back Control. It's about reproductive care on the border between the US and Mexico. And I read the introduction and it was really academic and difficult, and I had tried to send the files to my Kindle and couldn't read it. And the book club was on Tuesday, so I gave up. I was like, I do not have time or mental capacity to read this book in the time allowed. And the next book for the next installment of the same book club is Mammoth by Eva Baltasar. And I know that one's really short. So I might try and read that one this weekend, as well as the other books that I have been talking to you about. I'm also nearly done with the book for my In Real Life book club, which is really different from the online lesbian feminist book club. The book we're reading is Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston, and I hate it. It's a romance about a woman whose father dies, and he worked as a mortician, and the family lived in a funeral home for a while, and she can see ghosts. And so her father's died, so she's gone back home for the first time in 10 years, and also is seeing the ghost of her editor, because she's a ghostwriter for a romance writer. It's a kooky setup. It could be fun. I really think you can tell that Ashley Poston wrote fan fiction before writing standard fiction. I don't know what you call the difference between those two things. The premise of fan fiction is that it is based on already existing media, and so you don't need to create characters because people already have ideas and assumptions about the characters that you're writing about because they exist in a different intellectual property. And so you don't need to work on building characters. And the characters in these books, they don't exist, particularly the male lead. He is literally just handsome ghost boyfriend, and so there was nothing interesting about him. And also there was a twist near the end, which I was like, I thought we knew this going all the way through. There's two twists. One of them I knew because I've seen the film Just Like Heaven with Reese Witherspoon, and the other one that I thought we knew from the beginning. It's so annoyingly written. Like, it is written exactly like all of those Gen Z parodies of millennial humor. Like, instead of giving us characters, it's just dropping in every famous romance writer and novel that you've heard of the past 10 years to try and like create a sense of, oh, I relate to this character because we read the same books. And like, that's not building a real character. Really annoying and grating. Someone who calls coffee Zoom Zoom juice as a grown-up it's not worth reading about. So I'm going to be very annoyed at the next book club, but I haven't liked any of the books that we've read for this book club, but I enjoy the people and going to chat about it. So I'm halfway through The Boy from the Sea, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, it's very, very readable, and it is an interesting topic as it is talking about the dissolution of rural working class communities in Ireland over the course of the 70s and 80s, and Thatcherism. Of course, it's not actually Thatcherism because it's in Ireland, so there's no Thatcher. I'm pretty sure neoliberalism was alive and well there then as it is now. It's told from this first person plural perspective. The town is telling the story, and there is definitely a hint. So the boy that comes from the sea is different, and his family don't always appreciate that he's there because like the parents took him in, but his aunt and his brother, they're not so sure about him. But he is strange and likes to go wandering and talking to the like downtrodden. There's definitely a touch of the Jesuses about him, and so I think there might be something about Irish Catholicism to part of the story as well. And I've also started We Do Not Part by Han Kang, and I am only 12% of the way in so far, but I'm really, really loving it. I've gone in not knowing much. I know it is about a bleak period of Korean history in which I believe there was a massacre by the military. And it is so far about a woman who has written about a massacre in Korean history, and it has really affected her emotionally, and she is like, her family is broken down in some way, and she is very feeling very distanced and like having nightmares and unable to really do anything because of how much she has absorbed this history. It's just so lovely in terms of the writing, the atmosphere that's been evoked so far. Definitely think it could be one of my favourite books that I've read this year, and it's only February. But that is good because I loved nothing I read last year. So I'm looking forward to hopefully loving this one. Hopefully next time I talk to you, I'll be less tired. This weekend I'm going to meet my friend's baby. He was born on the 1st of December. So he'll be nearly 3 months old. And apart from that, that's on Sunday. And I need to make a cake because it's also one of our other friends' birthdays. And I'm also this weekend want to, fingers crossed, weather permitting, do some gardening. Because I am an old lady. Saturday morning, nearly 9 o'clock, time for parkrun. I'm not sure I'll be able to film during parkrun because I'll be running, and also there's a lot of people and I'm shy. But I can show you my bright red face afterwards. Promise it's what I'm doing right now. I'm always early. I'm trying to not be too early because I don't like standing around at the start. But it's an ingrained habit. I don't have to be late to anything. Unless my boyfriend's in charge of the timings. I'm done. I'm very sweaty. I'll walk slowly home, and then I'm going to have a shower, and then I'm going to go to the supermarket because I have several things to do today. One of them is baking a birthday cake. Hello. So I said I was going to come home and have a shower and then go make a cake, but I forgot that the other thing I need to do today is some gardening, and I thought there's no point like showering and getting myself ready for the day only to then get sweaty and dirty in the garden. So I am out here just after having got back from my run, and I'm going to tackle this side of the garden. Our whole garden needs a lot of work, but this side of the garden is where I've decided to start. So we planted a fruiting hedge, and then we haven't really taken care of it. So that is the attempt today, is to start taking care of it. So what I'm going to do is, there are a load of pots and stuff that don't belong here, so I'm going to move them somewhere else. We'll decide properly where they live in the future, but for now I'm just going to move them out of the way. Then I'm going to cut down any weeds. There are some big weedy plants out here, so I'm going to chop them down. I'm not actually going to dig them up today. Again, that will be a job for another day, but I'm going to chop them down, get them ready for digging up, and then I'm going to prune this hedge. This up here, that is part of the hedge, so stuff like that. As you can see, it's really tall, but it's not really hedgy. It doesn't go out to the side. So what I'm going to do is prune the things back so that they start to go outwards, and I'm also going to chop them down so that they don't go any higher than the fence, because we don't need them to be much higher than that. So got my headphones. I'm going to listen probably to some podcasts because I actually don't have an audio book that I'm listening to at the moment, but I'm going to get on with that. Hello, I'm just still listening to my podcast, that's no good. Go away. Hello, so I am about to go out to see my friends with their baby. I am partway through We Do Not Part by Han Kang, about a third of the way, and I don't know why I'm showing you this because that's not illustrating anything, but I am really enjoying it. Well, maybe enjoying is the wrong word, but I really think it's very good and very powerful. It is about this massacre in Jeju, but it is very slowly unraveling that. It is telling you the story from someone who is telling you a story. So we have this woman who has written a book about a massacre, and she has a different massacre in Korean history, and she is now traveling to Jeju to look after the bird of her best friend, who was someone that she was making films with in the past, who has been in an accident, and because of the accident she has to be like tortured essentially. So like the top 2 bits of her fingers have come off, and so they've reattached them, but to make the nerves reattach properly they have to be pricked every 3 minutes. And it's really like, the description of that just was so powerful. It's sort of about this constant reminder and this constant need to be made aware of the history and the violence and the way that it constantly comes up, and you cannot get away from it. This woman was she saw these horrific images from the corner of her eye, and she felt that maybe looking at them more clearly would help to like remove them from her mind, but it only stuck them in further. This sort of idea of looking at the past being necessary but not being curative, I think is a really interesting part of it. As I said, I'm only a third of the way through, so there's still lots more to come, but we are slowly hearing about the past of this woman who lives on Jeju, her family, what they experienced, because this massacre happened it was like a series of things that happened between like 1947 and 1949. It's sort of approaching the topic obliquely through hearing our main character is telling us the story of when her best friend told her the story that her mother told her. So there's all of this sort of mediation between you and the topic. It is not shown head on, which I guess is the way that we have to look at the past and things that happened in history. For most people, you weren't there. And so you get it mediated in all these various different ways. Then, like a trailing sentence at the close of conversation, like the dying fall of a final cadence, like fingertips cautiously retreating, forever landing on a shoulder, the flakes sink into the slick backness and are soon gone. And it's just really beautiful. And what I'm especially enjoying about it recognizing about it is how good that is as translation, particularly because obviously well, not necessarily obviously, but I can't read Korean, and so I'm not reading how Han Kang actually wrote this work, but it is still being written in this beautiful way, and I know a lot of that must be the metaphor and the sort of description from the original, but a lot of it is also the choice of words in English, and I'm really enjoying that because a lot of the time when I read translations from Korean or East Asian languages in general, there is a very disconnected feeling to the writing and a lot of distance and fairly simplistic as well, and you can, as someone who can't read the original language, it's impossible to know how much of that is the original author versus the translation. But having a book that feels so well written and so like purposeful in terms of word choice in translation is something that I'm really pleased with about this book, something I'm really enjoying about this book, because, as I said, it's not common for books in translation. But as I said, I'm about to go now, so I'm going to grab the cake and go down to South London. I'm sitting down, Beanie. Hello. Oh, I'm so far away. Hopefully you can still hear me because I've got a microphone on. So, as you can probably tell, if you've been here before, I have rearranged my living room. I just got a sudden urge, as if I was a 12-year-old in their bedroom, to change things around. So you're seeing my living room from an entirely different angle. Sorry, I am really tired at the moment. My brain is just not functioning the way that it should, but I have started Mammoth by Eva Baltasar. I'm probably not going to finish it in this vlog. I'm reading it for Sunny from a Sunny Book Nooks. What's it called? Lesbian Feminist Book Club. And I have read Eva Baltasar before. I read Boulder and I didn't really like it. I felt it was very repetitive for such a short book. We will see how I get on with Mammoth. It seems to be about a young woman who is 24. She wants to be pregnant, but she doesn't want to know who the dad is. So that's the starting point. When I say I've started it, I am 10% of the way in. So only very, very beginning because it is only like 86 pages long. But I am now 2/3 of the way through Han Kang, We Do Not Part. And I just listened to Nathan from Nathan's Nook talking about Human Acts by Han Kang, which turns out to have been about the massacre in, oh my god, I can't remember the place name, but it began with a G. And so there's a bit in We Do Not Part where she's talking about how the character in this book, who is a writer, wrote a book about a massacre in a place that began with a G. And so it seems as though Kyung-ah in this book is kind of self-consciously mirroring Han Kang. I doubt that the experiences are... It's obviously fictionalized, but I mean, there is an element of that going on. I've got through to the second part now, and we are in Jeju during this snowstorm. There is a lot about like life and death and the barrier between the two, people seeing people in places where they shouldn't be, even though these people aren't necessarily dead, like in stories. As I said earlier, it's a lot about storytelling and perspective and how we see the stories that we are being told, but it is also a lot about love and the way that it bridges death, or it bridges divides that seem impossible. It's hard sometimes to tell what's real. It feels very dreamlike in the way that it's written, and I think the snow and the emphasis on this snowy world really does that too, the way that snow changes a world, seeing trees as people. So there's a lot of there's a lot about optical illusions and shadows and spirits and ghosts. And I love a ghost story, so any sort of touch or element of ghostliness is something that I enjoy reading about in fiction. So I'm hopefully going to finish that one tonight. It's a very short book. I have about an hour and a half, less than, left. But I do also need to do some reading for a video that's coming out next month in March. So I'm going to get to that. But I will get back to you. I think I overdid it today. I worked, I moved all my furniture around in my living room, and then I went for a 5k run, and I don't think I was quite ready for it. I don't think I quite had the necessary energy for the amount of energy that I have exerted. Don't get used to this. The living room will probably be moving back to the way that it was before, because I'm not sure this is entirely practical, but it won't be moving back today because I am very, very tired. You all right there? All right, I'll see you later. Motion so many times now that I have to double check that I'm in the right place setting every single time, and I can't get myself to be in the right position, and I'm tired. Okay, so I have finished We Do Not Part. I have also finished Mammoth. I haven't talked to you in ages because I'm really tired at the moment. I'm really struggling. So I'm doing the best that I can. I finished We Do Not Part, and the final third got a lot more intense. So it's about the Jeju massacre, and the first 2/3 there's a lot more dreamlike and slow moving, and then the last third we get much more into that storytelling aspect of it that I was talking to you about before, the sort of uncovering the history through people telling the story of how they discovered the history. So it's like mediated through so many people till we find the first-hand accounts and this idea of loss and what was missing and hidden stories. And there is still a kind of a dreamlike element of it, a uncertainty over the plot and what's actually going on. It all feels so disconnected and distanced from reality. It's not a book for people who want nice, neat answers. And it is also a book about love and the showing of and expressing of love, particularly among people who don't express themselves. I think it's a book that I am going to have to sit with and think about a lot and consider. I think that the change of pace and latter third I don't think quite worked for me as well. But I do think that the slow, drawn out, slow moving stuff was getting a bit, like there needed to be a change of pace and a change of perspective or focus. But I'm not sure it 100% worked for me towards the end. It became relentless, and I understand why. Like this massacre, this is not a spoiler, but like 30 to 40,000 people were killed over the course of 2 years. And so it is going to be relentless and dark and difficult, but I find that can be the change of pace also added to that. And I think I still need to think about it and get some distance from it and come back to it in order to give you my fully thought out review. But in this moment, definitely one of the best books I've read so far this year. So that's good. I've only read 14, so it's not that many to compare it to, but still. Mammoth, on the other hand, well, actually, no, on the same hand, I don't know how I feel about Mammoth either, but I think think it's going to be much more forgettable. While I think We Do Not Part will stick around and I'll be thinking about it a lot and it will come up in my reading again, I'm not sure I feel the same for Mammoth. So I told you it was about a woman who was really desperate to be pregnant, and it was about that, but it was also just this woman who's kind of, I think, unsure, unmoored. She doesn't seem to have any family or friends, and she's living in Barcelona, but she ends up going to the countryside and living isolated in this rural community, doing weird jobs. And there is a lot about reproduction and sex, and not just between humans, not between humans and animals, although there is one point where she says she wished she was a goat so that she could fuck a goat. So it doesn't actually happen, but there's definitely a element of that, and pig semen as well. So that's the vibe of the book. I think the things it reminded me of in terms of like tone and setting, I was kind of reminded of Creation Lake by Rachel Kushner, and also Big Swiss by Jen Bagan. I think if you liked either of those books, you would like it. It has the same kind of muscularity in the prose. It's very punchy and in your face with sort of a gross sexuality. There's a lot of like filth and bodily disgust alongside like the grimier parts of human sexuality. I'm not opposed to those things, but this was a very short book that I don't think really knew what it was doing necessarily. Like the purpose, the point, the direction didn't feel particularly concrete to me. So it was alright. It was alright, but I don't think that's the second Eva Baltasar I've read, and they have a similar idea of this kind of muscular, abrasive characters and tone, which, if that's your thing, then fine, but for me, not 100% into that. Thank you for watching me read my ebooks. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please do let me know your thoughts on any of the books in the comments down below. If you are new here and you've stuck around to the end, my name is Roisin. Thank you for joining us, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye.